Good day, everyone. Today I'll be sharing my presentation on medical ethics, values, and elements of a good, loving human action. So, morally good and loving action is a free and rational response to objective value in which the will chooses a truly good object and orders itself towards the good of the other. This means that morality is not based on feelings alone, nor consequences alone, but on recognizing what has value and responding to it appropriately. A loving action, therefore, is one that goes beyond self interest and affirms the dignity of the other person. To support this thesis statement, first, the morally good person is motivated by values, not merely by what is subjectively satisfying. So, true moral goodness comes from responding to what is objectively valuable. Second, the goodness of the will depends on the goodness of what is willed, as reason presents it. This means that even if a person is sincere, the will is not good if it chooses something that is not truly good. And third, for a human action to be fully good, it must be good in all its aspects, its object, its end, its circumstance, and its nature. This means that an action cannot be considered morally good if even one essential element is disordered. There are objections to these points. First, some argue that morality comes from emotions or sentiments, and that reason cannot determine what is right or wrong. Second, others claim that an action that is bad in itself can still be morally justified if it leads to good outcomes. And third, some argue that morality should depend solely on whether an action follows universal laws regardless of personal motivation or value. In response to these objections, first, emotions do not create moral value, but rather they are meant to respond to it. Without objective value, emotions lose their direction and become unreliable basis for morality. Second, a good will must be directed towards a truly good object. A person may sincerely intend something, but if what they choose is not truly good, then the act of the will is not morally good. And furthermore, good consequences cannot transform a bad action into a morally good one, since moral goodness requires that the object and the circumstance all be good. A defect in any one of these is enough to make the action morally wrong. To apply these principles, consider the case of a transplant surgeon who used a medical device to carve his initials into the liver of two patients without their knowledge or consent. During this time, a liver transplant is very difficult to do, and because he was very proud that he was able to do it successfully, he carved his initials into the livers of these patients without their knowledge. It is important to take note that the surgery was very successful and there were no complications due to his act or due to his carving his signature to the liver of the patients. However, this act was later discovered by another surgeon who performed a surgery in one of the patients, and he reported it to the doctor and reported it to the patient as well. From the perspective of Aquinas, the first surgeon's action is morally wrong because its object is evil. It involves the unnecessary mutilation of a patient's body. His intention is also not good because it is towards something that is self-serving. And according to MPTS, it is an act born out of a degree of professional arrogance, and the circumstances, which include the lack of consent and the abuse of medical authority, is also evil. So even if the surgery itself was successful, the presence of a single defect is enough to make the entire action morally evil. This action also fails because it is not a response to value. The surgeon does not recognize the intrinsic dignity of the patient as a person, but instead treats the patient as an object. So his motivation is based on what is subjectively satisfying. In contrast, the second surgeon who exposed the act demonstrates a morally good response because the object of the action, which is telling the truth and protecting the patient, is good. The intention is also good because it is aligned with justice and respect for the patient's dignity. The circumstance is also good as the action is done to correct a wrongdoing. Also, this action is a response to real value because it recognizes the worth of the patient and that they acted upon it accordingly. So, in conclusion, a medical act becomes truly moral and loving not merely when it follows rules or produces good outcomes, but when the physician freely recognizes the intrinsic value of the patient and chooses actions that respect the value in their object, intention, and circumstance. Thank you.